I have a feeling this chapter is going to be a little bit difficult to read. Hang on a sec. Apologies. Because I glanced down at it and saw Hurley's name, and I'm just like, oh no, we're going right into that. Okay. So, yeah, chapter 50. How am I back? Sorry. Alright, so I'm just going to go right into it. Hold on. Go right into chapter 50. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Hang on a sec. I forgot to do something that's very important. Otherwise, I lose track of everything. So, just bear with me here. I'm going to try to talk as I'm doing it. But I went through and wrote down notes on that last chapter. And I still can't believe that he is thinking about Greta after he killed somebody. But that's not nearly as weird as it is for a 16-year-old boy to be posted at a whatchamacallit, a not customs, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, where God, you know what I'm talking about though, right? It's weird for him to be positioned there. A 16-year-old boy with a AK-47. It's just weird. Border control. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, okay. Anyway. Excuse me. Chapter 50. The bag they'd placed over his head offered a mix of putrid smells. Feces, vomit, snot, and blood, all mixed together with the sweat of all the men who had worn it before him. Ugh. And it wasn't the perspiration of exertion, it was the ripe sweat of fear. An all-out assault on his olfactory system, designed to make him pliable to whoever it was who would walk through the door and begin asking questions. Hurley had no idea where he was, other than the fact that he was in a basement. He felt the stairs as they dragged him from the trunk of a car and into a building. It was the second car he'd been in that morning. In the midst of his pummeling by the police, he blurted out the only name that he thought might help. Levon Petrosian. I'm a friend of Petrosian. The clubbing and kicking stopped almost immediately, and then one of the men asked him what he'd said. Hurley could tell it was the portly one in the three-piece suit, even though he couldn't see him. The man ordered him cuffed and placed in the back seat of one of the cars. They were not gentle, but Hurley did not expect them to be, so it wasn't too bad. That was when they placed the first hood on his head. It wasn't too bad, really. It could have used a good cleaning, but at least it didn't smell like a bowl of shit. He marked the time in the back of the car, counting the seconds and trying to make sense of the noises beyond the glass windows. The metal cuffs were biting into his skin. He twisted his wrists around and tried to see if he could get out of them, but it was no use. Of course it's no use. Stupid camera. 27 seconds later, the car doors opened. Hurley couldn't be sure, but he thought two men got in the front seat and one man joined him in the back. He felt something hard jabbed into his ribs. Don't move or I will kill you. Hurley couldn't be sure if the object at his side was a gun or a truncheon. Frick you. The object was jabbed even harder into his side. You shouldn't talk like that. Talk to a policeman like that. The voice came from the front seat. It was the older pudgeball. Policeman? Hurley said with open disdain. If you're cops, what am I being arrested for? For striking a police officer. One of my men has a broken nose. You mean the one who was going to crack me over the back of the head with his stick? I have a great idea. Don't bullshit me, and I won't bullshit you. Striking a police officer is a very serious matter. Yeah, so is kidnapping. So why don't you just pull over and let me go, and I'll make sure no one puts a price on your head. You threatening us? I'm just telling you the truth. I make it a habit not to kill cops. That is, unless they are corrupt. Yes, Hurley. Go. Although, I don't think Hurley's getting out of this. Not a chance. Hurley doubled over as the man next to him delivered a stinging blow with whatever it was that he was holding. Hurley recovered and said, I can't wait to tell Petrosian about this. The first thing I'm going to do. Hurley turned to his right as if he could actually see the man next to him. Is take that stick of yours and shove it up your ass. Although you'd probably like that, wouldn't you? Oh my god. Hurley, shut up. They're gonna hurt you a lot. Hurley expected it this time and folded his arms up quickly, locking the object between his right biceps and forearm. Then he reeled his head back and smashed it in the general direction of the other man's head. They hit forehead to forehead like two pool balls, a loud, resounding crack. Despite the pain that Hurley felt, he started laughing wildly and kicking and thrashing. That was when they decided to pull over and put him in the trunk. Yep, he's too much trouble for y'all. Not long after that, maybe 10 minutes, they stopped, pulled him out of the trunk, and stripped him down to his birthday suit. Nice! Yep. Hurley endured this part without comment. He had a stinking feeling where this was all headed, and it was bleak, to say the least. He held out hope, though, that Richards had been able to get away. I don't think so. They wasted no time tossing him into the trunk of a second car and speeding off. It was a bumpy ride, and it must have been an older car because the fumes grew so strong that Hurley started to think he would suffocate. It occurred to him that might be the best possible outcome. Fall asleep and die from carbon monoxide poisoning. He could skip all the degradation and take his secrets with him. Unfortunately, he had survived, and they had dragged him into this dank basement that smelled like an outhouse. They switched out the hood that the police had used and put this disgusting burlap bag on his head. Hurley took in shallow breaths through his mouth and focused his mind. Throwing up under this thing would be extremely unpleasant, but then again, there was a really good chance that he was about to endure the most repugnant degradation the mind could imagine. So why worry? Yes, why worry? The mind, Hurley knew, could take only so much before it simply opened up and let the secrets spill out. They said everyone eventually broke, but Hurley didn't think of himself as everyone. He was a mean, nasty man who might have lost a step, but he was still very much in control of his mind. Under the smelly hood, he smiled at the challenge ahead of him. He went through the long, nasty list of the things they would do to him. He committed himself to finding them every step of the way. And if he was lucky, they'd either intentionally or accidentally kill him. And that was a victory he would take in a heartbeat. Oh my gosh, Hurley, yes, I knew I loved you, but please don't let them kill you. You're great. Hurley sat there for at least an hour. He was bored, because he knew what they were doing, and he'd just as soon get on with it. Isolation was a standard interrogation torture technique, and while it worked on most people, it was useless on Hurley because of the simple fact that he really didn't like people all that much. There were a few here and there that he'd met over the years who could hold his interest, but most others were either boring or irritating. I'm reading about Hurley about to be tortured, and I'm just laughing at his personality. I love it. There were noises on the other side of the door, footsteps, some talking, but nothing he could make out, and then the door opened. Hurley tried to count the different steps. His best guess was 3 or 4 men. They spread out around him. Someone approached him from behind, and Hurley resisted the impulse to flinch. The man grabbed the burlap bag and yanked it from his head. Hurley blinked several times and took a look around the room. An industrial lamp hung from the ceiling, a brown extension cord snaking its way to the door. Hurley looked at the 3 men he could see. 2 were familiar. "Gentlemen, there must be some misunderstanding here," Hurley announced in an easy tone. "I thought hostilities in Beirut were over." The 2 men in front of Hurley shared a brief smile. The older one said, "Mr. Sherman, I have been looking forward to this for some time." "So have I, Sayed." "So you know who I am?" Sayed asked with a raised eyebrow. "I sure do. You're the DSD goon here in Beirut." "And you, Mr. Sherman, are a CIA assassin." Hurley looked as if he had to think about that for a second, and then he nodded and said, "That would be correct. I kill people like you for a living. In fact, I killed your boss, Hisham." Syed nodded. This was going to be very interesting. Oh my gosh. I love that they know each other. I knew that they knew each other, but it's great that they know each other and they're in this situation. Okay. It was really a shame that you weren't at the embassy that afternoon. We planned the entire operation with the hope that you would be there. Yeah, it was a real shame. Although I've tried to make up for it over the years by killing as many of you assholes as I can. Sayed gave him an affable smile. It looks like your killing days have come to an end. Possibly. Hurley surveyed the dank room. Things don't look so good, but I'm always up for a challenge. This is a challenge you will not win, and you know that. I'm afraid I don't. You seem a fricked up guy. I'm not okay in the head, and I pretty much hate you when it takes more than I love life. So this is gonna be a tough one. Really, Mr. Sherman, your false bravado is so American, so Hollywood. Oh my god. Why do I love this so much and hate it at the same time? Hurley winced at the word Hollywood, as if it pained him to be associated with the town. No false bravado here, Syed. I'm going to freak with you until I take my last breath. I'm going to feed you so much disinformation you won't know what to believe. You'll be killing your own people before it's all over. You won't sleep at night, and when you do, you'll be dreaming of traitors around every corner. Spies in your own camp. This is going to be a blast. Really? Yep. Hurley gave him a nod to confirm his conviction. The two of us are going to take a little trip into the bowels of my sick mind, and trust me, you won't make it out unscathed. Ha! Sayed laughed. This was a first. Fine, I think we should begin our journey, don't you? Absolutely. The sooner the better. That's my motto. Why have you decided to come back to Beirut after all these years? You know why I'm here. Let's not assume I know your motives. Hurley smiled. You have something I want. And what would that be? Hurley had thought about this while he had sat under the putrid hood. Ivanov was due to show up the day after tomorrow, and he would be desperate. They were all desperate because Hurley himself had drained their little secret bank accounts. He just hoped they hadn't gotten their hands on Richards. And if they had, that he would be smart enough to leave Hamburg out of his interrogation. He needed to make this seem to be exactly what it was going. He needed to make this seem to be about exactly what it was without the money coming up. What kind of sentence is that? He needed to make this seem to be about exactly what it was without the money coming up. Okay, got it. Oh my god. I'm too tired. It's 8:44 in the morning. I'm so tired. I'm here to negotiate the release of John Cummins. And why would I give him to you? Hurley tilted his head back and looked up at the ceiling. Well, let's think about that. If you give him back to me, I won't kill you. You're not in any position to... You're not in any position to negotiate that. This elicited laughter from all, including Hurley. And me! Syed stopped laughing abruptly and snapped his fingers. He looked at one of his men and pointed at the door. The men left and came back a few seconds later, wheeling the small stainless steel cart. Lovely! Syed took it from him and positioned it next to the subject. He smiled at Hurley and picked up the pliers, opening and closing them. Hurley? Manicure? Hurley asked. I like to call it 20 questions. You're so clever, Syed, Hurley said, his voice dripping with mock admiration. Kind of like a game show. I can't wait to get started. Good. Let's start with your real name. Jack Mehoff, Hurley offered, straight-faced. Jack Mehoff, Syed repeated. That is your real name? Of course it isn't, you freaking moron. Jack Mehoff. Jack Mehoff. Come on, let's go. Off with the first fingernail. You win. I lose. Let's go. I love... I love how just like... He's just like encouraging Sayed to do it. He's just being so smart alecky, it's hilarious. Sayed searched the subject's face for a sign of stress. He had never had a prisoner ask to have his first fingernail torn off. His demeanor would change in a second, though. Sayed chose the forefinger on the left hand and wedged the grip of the pliers in under the nail bed. Last chance, your first name? Don't change the rules on me. Very confusing for your subjects. You said 20 questions. I blew the first one. Come on, let's go. Hurley said with a smile. Hurley, you're making this... Why? You're making this enjoyable for me, and I don't want it to be. Good God. Stop. Sayed clamped down hard on the pliers and began to rock the nail back and forth. Oh yeah, Hurley announced. Let's get this party started. Sayed gave it one good yank and ripped the entire nail off. Holy Mary Mother! Hurley unleashed a string of swear words and then started laughing. Damn, that stings. If that doesn't wake you up, nothing will. This is great. His laughing grew to the point where he couldn't control it. He was shaking so hard his eyes started to tear up. Oh, I can't wait for the next one. This is freaking great. I didn't think this was how this interrogation was gonna go at all. I absolutely love it, though. Oh my gosh. Sayed remained undeterred. Your name? Bill Donovan. Really? Nope. Really, Mr. Sherman, what is the harm in your telling us your first name? Probably nothing at this point, but it's my name. But it's my nature to frick with guys like you. I will ask the question again. Sayed stayed steady. What is your real name? Ulysses S. Grant. You are lying? Of course, you freaking idiot. Don't you read history? Sayed moved in for the second fingernail. He wedged the pliers under the nail bed, wiggled it again to make sure he had a good enough grip, and then looked into Hurley's eyes. He didn't like what he saw. It was the wild-eyed look of a crazy man. Do it, come on! Hurley egged him on. What are you waiting for? You're not turning into a pussy on me, are you? Part of Sayed knew he should stop and come back later when he could control the situation. The men were here, however, so he needed to pull this second nail, and then let this lunatic sit and stew for a while. Probably come back and use electricity. He tightened his grip and yanked the second nail free. Hurley howled again with the laughter of a madman. The shrieking turned to cackles and an uncontrollable laughter. His eyes were filled with tears as he yelled, 18 more to go! Yee-haw! Sayed dropped the pliers on the cart. That's right. We'll give you a little rest before we start with the others. He started for the door. Hurley looked at the other man who was standing in front of him. Is that you, Abu? Abu Radi? I haven't seen you in years. I heard you have your own little terrorist group now. Fatah? Look at you all grown up, Hurley said admiringly. Radi smiled and shook his head. He clearly thought the American insane. That's a given at this point. Hurley is Hurley tilted it. He's either insane or a genius. I'm going with genius. It's amazing. Hurley tilted his head to the side as if trying to recall some distant memory. I bet you weren't more than 4 feet tall when I used to frick your mother. Did you tell your friends that she was a prostitute? Hurley! Hurley craned his head to look at the other two men. His mom could suck on better than any whore I've ever met. And trust me, I've been with a lot of whores. Jesus Christ. I love it. I love Hurley so much. The smile left Radi's face in an instant. He lashed out with his right fist, hitting Hurley in the mouth. Hurley's head rocked back from the blow, and then, before Radi could throw another punch, Sayed grabbed him from behind. No, Sayed ordered. Do not let him get to you. Hurley shook the sting and fog from his head and came up smiling. One of his top middle teeth had been knocked out, and his mouth was filling with blood. Look! Hurley yelled. showing them the gap in his top row. Look, you knocked my tooth out. Ruddy and Say had stopped struggling for a second, and that was when Hurley unleashed a gob of blood and the one busted tooth from his mouth. The bulk of it hit Ruddy in the face. With his arms tied behind his back and his legs taped to the chair, Hurley started bouncing the chair an inch at a time toward the two men, snapping his teeth and barking like a dog. Oh my gosh, that's not how I thought it would go at all, but that's hilarious. And that's completely changed, like, Hurley completely changed his demeanor during that to just frick with it. That's so cool. Not cool, but it's really funny. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So they learn nothing from him. But Hurley knows Radi and Syed. He didn't know the other guy. Who was the other guy in there? Probably Mugnia, right? Or what was the other guy's name? Samir? Or was that somebody else? I don't know. But they're not going to get much information out of Hurley, that's for sure. Richards, I don't know. I don't even know if they have Richards. I think they do, but I don't know. So, I'm going to move on to the next chapter, and I'll see you then.